Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara and today I am going to be doing a review of the Weavers of Alamaxa by Hadeer Elsbai. This is the second book in the Alamaxa duology and I want to shout out Hadeer for an arc. I reached out to her to see if I could get an e-arc of the book and she very kindly was able to get me a copy, so thank you so much, thank you so much. And as soon as I got the e-arc, I finished my current read at the time and I jumped straight into it because some of you may remember I did do a review of the first book. I really liked it. The first book was called The Daughters of Izdihar and I just thought everything was done really well. Like the characters were compelling, the world building was great, the city felt alive, like the different locations we were in felt really alive. I really liked the thematic work, I really liked the pacing, like everything just worked. And I liked the way Hadeer wrote the story, like it flowed really well and it was really easy to get through. It was just a top notch all the way around. I gave it a 5 stars. So naturally, I was very excited to read this book. This book comes out in January of 2024, I believe. If I'm wrong, I will update it in my description. I will also link all the kind of Amazon pre-order links and everything like that if you so wish to purchase it. But overall, I think this is a really solid ending to the duology. I think Hadeer wraps everything up with a nice bow, and I think she also leaves it open-ended enough that if she wished to come back to this world, she could very easily. But I think the story of these characters, of our two main characters, really wraps up nicely, and I think she did justice to the first book. With that in mind, let's jump into my review. So what did I like about this book? The thing I really like about Hadeer's writing is that it's very accessible, it's very easy to read, it's very easy to consume. You can just get through it very quickly. I think I read The Daughters of Izdihar in like a day or two. The same thing happened here. I pretty much read it in like 2 days because it's addictive. You know, her writing is very addictive, it's very well paced. You know, there's action scenes every now and then, even when the characters are just conversing, like you're very engrossed in this world and so you just want to read it all the time. And you know, I read it in a few sittings and I just pretty much devoured it in a few days. So that is a testament to her writing and the way that she paced the book as well, because the pacing really was top notch. The next thing I really liked was the character development. You know, we have our two main characters. It's a dual POV book. We follow Nahel and Georgina. Nahel is a very strong personality. She's very kind of gung-ho. She's very passionate, very, you know, she'll do whatever she can to stand up to the man. She's very principled and, you know, she's a bit loud, she's a bit boisterous and she's great. You know, I've really liked Nahel. The next one is Georgina. She's a bit quieter, a bit more introverted. She's very principled as well, but she shows it in a very different way. So they're very much opposite. They're very strong women, very strong women, but in very different ways. And I identify with both of them in different ways as well. Like I would say I'm somewhere in the middle of these two characters, which was quite fun to read. The thing I really like about Georgina's character in this book is that she really comes into her own, and that's what I was really hoping would happen, and we definitely see that come to fruition. With Nahel, we also see her calm down a little bit and take a step back and be a bit more rational rather than, you know, just going into things without really thinking about it. So we see both of these characters really develop in a way that is faithful to their characters in the first book. And I was very satisfied with the way their characters developed by the end of this duology. It was really satisfying to read. There are a bunch of other really great characters in this book. I think there is a very rich secondary cast of characters that Hadeer has done a very good job of fleshing out, even though it is just a duology. We feel a connection to them, we know who they are, we know, you know, what they stand for, and I think that's really hard to do in a duology, to be honest, but she did a very good job of it. Lastly, as it relates to the good, it was a really great ending. I think when you're ending a duology, a series, whatever it may be, it's always hard. You know, there's always that concern of whether the landing is going to stick, and I think the landing really stuck in this book, and I think it was a very satisfying ending to the duology. But like I said, she leaves it open enough that if she wished to come back to this world, she definitely could. And I'm very excited that she did it like that, because that gives me hope that she maybe will revisit it someday, and I really hope she does. So now that brings me on to the neutral. I wouldn't say there were any negatives. I just think there were things that I were a little bit more neutral to lukewarm on. And the first thing was the world building. Now, I can be more forgiving of this because the world building is really sumptuous and detailed in the first book, and it needs to be because that was, you know, we were presented with a new world. In this one, naturally, it's going to be less of a focal point because we're already familiar with the world. I just wish we'd had more, just because I think Hadeer is really good at world building. Like, I think she's very talented at world building. And there's not many authors I can say that of, but she is one of them. And I just wanted more of it. You know, as an example, we got lots of really like luscious descriptions of food in the first book. We didn't really get any of that in this book, and I just missed it. You know, it was noticeable to me, and I just wanted more. I just wanted more of it. The next thing that I also really missed was having the quiet moments. I've talked about this many times on my channel. I love quiet moments between characters. I love it when we see characters just bonding and laughing and chatting over a fire and just, you know, talking about life. We had a decent amount of that on the first book. We didn't have as much of that in the second book, and I just wish we'd had more. Again, this is very much a personal preference thing. This probably won't bother a lot of people. The pacing in this one is really intense, and I just think to balance out those fast-paced, tense moments, it would have been nice to have had some slower, nicer, you know, kind of moments between characters where they're just talking about stuff that doesn't necessarily directly relate to the plot, but we just didn't have it. And I also do get that it is a duology, so less time to be able to do that stuff, so I am more forgiving of it, but I just wanted it regardless. The next thing that I would have really liked, and this kind of feeds into point 1 and 2 on the neutral side, is that I just really wish this had been a trilogy, because Hadeer really raises some fascinating things at the end of this book that could have been explored in a third book. Without going into spoilers too much, but a big part of this book is like the political system and how the government is set up. And I just would have loved more time on that topic in another book. And I'll give you an example of one book that does that really well, or one series that does that really well, and that is Mistborn. You know, when Elend and the team are trying to kind of rebuild government from the ground up. I love that part of Mistborn. It's probably my favourite part about Mistborn. And I just wish we'd had that, but in this book, in this world, because I just think it would have added so much more depth to the world. And I think Hadeer is quite good at politics as well. And I think it would have allowed her to explore her writing in that regard even more. And I think she would have done an amazing job of it. So this is me just being really picky, you know, and I have to say these 3 things that I've mentioned, they're all very positive in the sense that I love those things and she's done them very well before. I was just missing them in this book, and I understand why she didn't keep them in this book, but I just wanted them, you know, I just wanted more exploration. The last thing as well is the magic. I think the magic is a really big part of this series, but we never really get much time with the magic. We never really get much knowledge into the magic. It's almost like a secondary part of the duology, and I don't always have to have like a really high fantasy world. Honestly, I don't really care, but I think given that the author spent a decent amount of time on it, I just think we needed to elevate it to the next step so that we got even more time with it and so that we could really understand how this magic system works. We just didn't really get that, and I think again that was another missed opportunity to really enrich this world. That being said, I do understand, given that it is a duology. I think if that had happened in the trilogy, I would have been less forgiving of it. But given that it is a duology, I am more forgiving of it. So overall, I gave this book a 4 stars. I think it's a really solid ending to the duology. I think there were just some things that I really missed from the first book that I think Hadeer does really well, that just didn't come up as much in this book. And I just wanted it. I'm a fussy reader, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Overall, I strongly recommend this duology. I think it's a really great duology to just get lost in. I think if you're looking for things around like female empowerment and strong women, like actually strong women, whilst also set in the backdrop of an incredibly rich, diverse world with a very cool magic system. But if you don't mind not having tons of depth to that, then I think this is a duology that you're going to really like. I really would have loved to have seen this as a trilogy, like the David Bad trilogy. I think this could have been up there as a favourite series if it had been lengthened out to a trilogy. But like I said, I understand why the author didn't do that. Let me know your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think. I think this is an amazing book and I strongly recommend it if you're looking for something, you know, quite fast-paced and quite easy to get through. I do just want to say, you know, my review is very much my opinion. You know, I'm not softening my opinion or anything because I've spoken to the author on Instagram a few times. This review is a 100% honest review. I will always do that no matter who sends me a book or gives me a book. Like, I will always be 100% honest in what I think about a book. And I just think this book was missing some elements that I loved in the first book. That's not to say that it was bad. It was still very good. And I think a lot of people will really like it. Let me know what you think down below. If there's any questions I can answer down below, I'll try to without giving any spoilers. This book does come out in January, like I said. I will give the exact date in the comments or in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe as always, and I'll see you soon. Bye.